T. Welcome to the command post. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. I, of course, am your commander-in-chief, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. So you're going to get two sides of me this morning. There's the rational side that is understanding and sympathetic. And then you're going to get the irrational side that's like, man, F that, not trying to hear that shit. I'm out for revenge. So you have my wife to thank for this particular video. Normally, the old me would have been like, man, F that dude. I'm over that shit. I'm ready to move on. He made his decision. I'm ready to rock with my guy, which is still my stance. However, you know, my wife has tapped into this softer side where I need closure. I need to know why this happened. Like, you know, I'm a big why guy, but I can know why and still not need like closure. Why is closure? I like to know why, but if I don't figure it out, you know, some things just happen. I'm a firm believer in this is what allows you to not always need the why, right? Is everything happens for a reason. And I'm a firm believer in that. And if you truly believe in everything happening for a reason, you don't always need a why. They're nice, and I like when I get them. And in this particular instance, had I not gotten a why, I don't really give a shit. Ultimately, I want to land on the right guy, and I think we have the right man for the job in Dan Quinn. It's funny because he was the guy that most of us didn't want when this process first started, and yet we landed on Dan Quinn. However we landed on him, whether he was the lead candidate all along or not, doesn't matter. We ended up in the right spot is what I ultimately believe. And I remember saying this very vividly when Ben Johnson first spurned us, was that he's not an alpha. I'm doubling down on that today after hearing Ben Johnson speak for the first time since he shitted on us more than 10,000 feet in the air when we were en route to interview him for the second time and he decided he didn't want to even take the interview. So let's kind of get into the mind of one Benjamin Johnson to hear why he didn't take the job, or at least take the interview. To hell with the job itself. Why didn't he even take the interview? Let's get some closure, man. That's what this is all about. You need closure. So these are a few excerpts from a recent article written on NFL.com that referenced a press conference that Ben Johnson just had in which he discussed his decision to remain in Detroit and not take any of the coaching openings from this offseason, including Washington. Now, he didn't specifically single out Washington, but we can kind of draw the inferences, right? Most teams have had their coordinators speak. Actually, not having Joe Witt Jr. talk to this point is interesting. Maybe this next go round of OTAs we'll hear from the defensive coordinator, because we already heard from Cliff Kingsbury, and as you can see, most of the teams are having their offensive coordinator speak. I don't know if teams have had their defensive coordinator speak yet. We just haven't heard from him. I'm actually interested to hear what he's got to say about some of the young guys that are here, what he's seen thus far, and et cetera, et cetera. So hopefully we'll hear from Joe Witt Jr. But anyway, I'm going to read you these quotes from Ben Johnson from this article, and we'll discuss some of what he had to say. So the article reads as follows. Ben Johnson's offense was so good in 2023, he was seen by many as a top candidate to land a head coaching job in 2024. He flirted with the idea, taking interviews before ultimately pulling out to return to Detroit. Now wasn't the time. On Thursday, Johnson explained his reasoning. This is Ben Johnson. Quote, you know, right after the championship game, I got on a plane and was just thinking about something that Coach Dan Campbell had said, Johnson told reporters. So 2021 and the early part of 2022, he made this analogy to the team just about how we were sailing down the ocean and that at that moment we were in the Arctic. We were hitting the icebergs. We had the storms going on. Those were dark days, but he had the foresight, he had the vision of where we were going and where we were heading. He assured us, guys, I see it. I see where we're going. The results haven't been there yet, but the Caribbean is on the horizon. It's coming up. And you know, I'm sitting there on the plane and I'm thinking back to that. Just the story of my career has been living in that Arctic for a lot of it. And that was the second time I had been to the playoffs and the first time I'd experienced winning games in the playoffs. I think about it when it boils down to it. I wanted the sunshine a little bit longer. That's really what it comes down to for me. I like the sunshine. I like what we've built here, starting with the ownership, the head coach, the GM, on down. We have a great group of guys in the locker room, and I want to reap the rewards with them a little bit longer. Closed quote. Let's stop right there. All of this, I totally get. And I like the fact that he's self-aware enough to say, hey, look, this is a good situation that I'm in right now. I like where I am. And you know what? We built something really good here, and I want to kind of see this thing through. And I respect that. And as a human being, it's good to be aware of your situation and knowing what's best for you at that time, right? So, again, I have no issues with anything that he said to this point. He wanted to stay in the sunshine a little bit longer. Good for him, right? Got no issues. So we continue. Now we get into the murky waters, if we're going to stick with the analogy that Dan Campbell made. Now we're getting into the murky waters. Let's put on our boots. It's going to get a little rough. The water's going to get a bit choppy here, right? So this is Ben Johnson again. Quote, listen, there's a lot of things that go into it, a lot of reasons and dynamics that play a part. Johnson continued during his Thursday press conference. Something that really resonates with me is, okay, 8 openings this past year. What would you set the over-under at in 3 years? How many still have jobs? I'd put the over-under at 4.5. And I'd say there's a good chance 5 of them are out of jobs in 3 years, you know? And so when I look at it from that perspective, if I get the opportunity to go down that road, it's about how do I get to that second contract? How do I set myself up? The stars need to align. I'm not going to do it just to do it. I love what I'm doing right now. I love it. I love where I'm at. My family loves where we're at. I love the people that we're doing it with. So I'm not willing to go down that other path yet unless I feel really good about how it's going to unfold. The longer you're in the coordinator chair, it does nothing but help you prepare for the next step if it ever comes down the pipe, Johnson said. Personally, I don't feel like I'm hurting my opportunities or my abilities to be a coordinator in the future, and I love what I'm doing right now, closed quote. So there's a lot fundamentally wrong for me as a competitor with that particular portion of his rationale. And this is why I'm doubling down on the fact that we got the right man for the job. That Benjamin Johnson is a beta, right? That was my statement back in, February when he shitted on us, essentially. And I'm doubling down on that after hearing his rationale for not leaving Detroit. Now, again, I love the self-awareness, right? And that's cool. And as human beings, you need to do what's best for you, especially for your mental health. Right now, he feels like he's in a good spot. He really enjoys what he's doing. He enjoys who he's doing it with. And he wants to see this thing through. And you know what? I probably would have felt a lot better had he just said that. Had he taken the second interview and said, guys, I respect the fact that you are interested, But, I had some time to sit and think about it, and I really, truly just want to stay in Detroit right now. I think that's the best situation for me and my family. Instead of telling us that, he sent us a damn text message like a damn 14-year-old, right? So I lose a lot of respect for you there, but forget about that part. Let's move that aside. The biggest thing is I want the guy that wants this job. That's number one. Clearly, Ben Johnson did not want this job. But this whole spiel about 8 openings, let's put the number at 4.5 of guys that aren't going to have their jobs. And I'm going to take the over and say 5 guys are going to be out of work in 3 years. And so only 3 coaches out of the 8 that are going to be hired this offseason are going to be left standing. And I'm not sure if what I'm hearing here is a guy that's saying, I'm not sure if I'm going to be one of those 3 guys. And the jobs that are available, I don't know if they're going to give me the best chance to be one of those guys left standing at the end of the day. My biggest thing, and I've told you guys this before, is I let the losers worry about losing, okay? Only losers worry about losing, okay? The winners, they think about winning. How do I achieve my ultimate goal and purpose, which is to get the dub? And you got to have that athletic arrogance. I talk about this all the time, okay? You don't get to sit in the coach's chair. You don't get to the highest level that there is if you don't possess that ego, that athletic arrogance that says, I don't know about you. I don't know what you on. I don't know if you're going to fail, but I'm not. I'm going to be the guy that gets the job done. That's the mentality that you want. That's the mentality of an alpha. An alpha isn't thinking, well, there's 8 jobs and 5 of them are probably going to fail. And I don't know, maybe I'm going to be one of those 5 if I take one of these jobs. You know what I'm thinking? I don't know about anybody else. I can't speak for who's going to be around in 3 years from now of the 8 jobs. I just know I'm going to get my shit done. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to be one of the guys that gets to that second contract because I got the job done the first 4 years of my contract, and they had no choice but to bring me back. That's the mindset of an alpha and a winner. He's nothing like the guy that's mentoring him right now in Dan Campbell, right? Dan Campbell had the foresight. He said, we're struggling right now. Remember what they were that first year when Dan Campbell was there, right? What did they win? 2-3 games, maybe, right? How many games did they win early on in 2022 or 2022, right? They started out the season, 0-6? 1-6? No, they were 1-6 because they beat us in week 2. They were 1-6 before they turned it around. But Dan Campbell said he took that Lions job knowing that the Lions had been a downtrodden franchise. They had struggled. But guess what? He came in on some biting kneecap shit. He came in and said, I'm an alpha and I'm going to get the job done. That ain't Ben Johnson. He wants reassurances. He wants somebody to tell him, hey, you're going to succeed if you take this job. That's what betas want. Betas want the easy route. Alphas say, give me whatever it is. And again, you want to take a job that gives you the best chance to succeed. And this is where I kind of lose sight of his angle here. Because in my mind, if I'm confident in my abilities, and this is why I just don't see him as an alpha. You give me the number 2 pick in the draft. You give me 6 picks in the top 100. You give me the second most cap space of any team in the NFL. You give me a general manager in Adam Peters that's well respected, that's going to build, and we've seen what he's done. And he couldn't have known what Adam Peters was going to do, but he should know. He's been in the league enough time, and he's been around league circles enough to know who Adam Peters is and what kind of a track record precedes him. So he should have known. And I'm pretty sure they've talked already, because this was not the first interview, this was the second interview, about what Adam Peters was going to try and do, right? At the end of the day, you got all these resources at your feet, essentially, at your disposal. If you're as good of a coordinator and you think you have a chance to be a really good head coach, and you've learned from Dan Campbell and you're ready to lead, and I'm giving you a chance to handpick your quarterback. You got some solid pieces on offense, but you're going to need to add a lot more. But you got draft capital to do that. You got free agency cap space to do that. If I'm giving you all the tools necessary to go out and fix this team and put it in the image and the mold of what you need to be successful, and you're not willing to take that, it means that you want it's one thing if this was a preordained job. And there are a lot of those already out there where you're going into a situation where we're giving you a stock quarterback, guy that probably isn't going to get the job done for you. We're giving you a roster that we think you should win with. And here you need to come in here and find a way to get it done, right? And we don't have a ton of resources. We don't have a ton of draft cap space and all that stuff. Figure it out, right? I get that. Like, it's no different than Dan Quinn or even Adam Peters the last couple of years, not taking, interviews with Tennessee and Arizona for their GM jobs because he didn't see the path to success with those teams, right? It wasn't the right move. Like, I'm not leaving San Francisco for those jobs. And that's probably how Ben Johnson felt about Washington. I'm not leaving Detroit for that job. And that's fine. But I don't know what you're waiting on. What do you think? You're going to get the Kansas City job when Andy Reid retires? You think they're going to just come and handpick you to be the next guy, the successor in Kansas City? You get Patrick Mahomes? I don't know if that's what he's waiting on. Generally, when things like that happen, they pick an in-house candidate. Rarely do they go outside of the organization to find the heir apparent. But I don't know if that's what he's looking for, waiting for that kind of an opportunity where he can see the outcome already before he gets there. But if that's what you need to be the guy, I don't want you being my guy. Because that says beta to me. That doesn't scream alpha. The guy that's coaching you, the guy that's leading you in Detroit, he's an alpha. Because he took a job knowing that this may not go well, but I believe in me and my ability to turn this thing around, so I'm going to get it done. That's what alphas do. You think Dave Canales went into the Carolina job thinking, this is a great opportunity. What a great owner. What a great situation. Bryce Young is awesome. This is going to be great. You think he went into that situation thinking that way? Hell no. He went into that knowing. Now, granted, Dave Canales is in a different situation than Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson has a ton of upside. He's a hot commodity. He's done it for multiple years at a high level, and so people are very interested in him. That's not the case for Dave Canales right now, but coming off of a year when nobody expected Tampa to be any good, taking them to the playoffs, winning a playoff game, if Dave Canales had done it one more time, he would have been just as hot as Ben Johnson was last year. And he could have stayed in Tampa Bay and said, nah, this Carolina job, I can wait. Because you know why? Not a great job. I'll do this again in Tampa. I'll bet on myself. And then next year, I'll re-enter the fray. There'll be better opportunities available. And then I'll take a job that I think is a better situation for me. He could have done that. But you know what he said? I'm an alpha. Give me this Carolina job. Give me Bryce Young. I'm going to fix that shit. That's what alphas do. That is clearly not what Ben Johnson is. He's a beta. And that's okay. That's okay. Right? I'd much rather him disclose what he is. Show me who you are. Reveal yourself now before I get in bed with you. Pause. And then have to find out later you're not anything like you described yourself to be. He's not Dan Campbell. He's not capable of leading a team through the Arctic. He's not able to take a team through the icebergs and lead them to the Caribbean. He's a follower. And you know what? We need followers in life. Everybody can't be the vice president or the owner of a Fortune 500 company. We need janitors. We need people who work in the service industry. You know why? Because that's what makes this society run smoothly. And you know what Ben Johnson is? He is a worker bee. He's a follower. And look, you can learn how to be a leader. You can get better at that. That's not something that is wholly innate. But I think there are certain qualities that great leaders have that is innate, right? That are rather innate. That you can't teach this. Either you have it or you don't have it. You can sharpen some of those traits, and you can maybe take bits and pieces from other guys' leadership styles and add them into your own. But at some point, you've got to be your own man, and you've got to have that innate ability to lead. I don't see that with Ben Johnson. And his words don't move me. They don't make me feel like this is the type of guy I want leading my organization from the bottom to the top. He wants one that's already heading and trending towards the top, and he wants to just come in and help it get there. He doesn't want to start and do the hard work. He doesn't want to do hard shit with good people. He wants to do easy shit with good people. Well, I'll let him stay in the sunshine a lot longer. Look, I'll just say this. I got nothing but respect, and I agree with him. If he continues to do good work in Detroit, he'll get another opportunity. He'll get plenty of opportunities. That's not going to change anything. And I wish him nothing but the best. I have no ill will towards him for not taking this job. But I will tell you this. I am petty. It's on site with his ass. I wish we were playing the Detroit Lions this year. And the fact that we're not, I want to see these bastards in the playoffs. I'd love nothing more. I'd love nothing more than to go to Detroit. Hold Ben Johnson in his offense to less than 300 yards, less than 20 points, and smother them in a dominant 26 to 13 victory. I'd love nothing more than to do that shit and rub his face in it. That's the type of time I'm on. Because at the end of the day, I would have had more respect for what ultimately transpired if he would have just gone about it a different way. If he would have just said, you know what? I want to finish what we started here. And he would have just sat down with the brass, with Adam Peters and Josh Harris and company and told them that to their face. Hey, I want to finish what I started here in Detroit. I really appreciate the opportunity. Heard them out and say, you know what? I think I want to go back to Detroit. I think that's where my heart is right now. That's where my head is. I would have respected that a lot more than the bullshit that he pulled. The bottom line is, in going through this whole process and hearing him speak, he's not an alpha. That's what I've taken from this. I don't need a guy that's scared of what might happen. I'm not looking for a guy that needs reassurances as to why he needs to take a job. You want to put yourself in the best position to succeed. That's human nature. Nobody wants to go somewhere where they're set up to fail. But you also have to have that athletic arrogance, that confidence that I'm the guy. I think he's a follower, not a leader. And I'm glad we got Dan Quinn. And we have closure now. He told us why. He didn't believe in our job. Simply put, he couldn't see a path to success here in Washington. He felt like if he took this job, he'd be sailing in the Arctic forever. And he'd never find the Caribbean here in Washington. To that I say, F you, and I wish we played the Lions. And wherever he goes, I would love to play them because I want to kick his ass every time I see him. That's my energy. I told you I was going to be rational and irrational. The irrational side is like, F him. I want to kick his ass. I hope we see the Lions in the playoffs, and I want to put them out. And I want to smash his offense, shut that shit down, and limit them to less than 300 yards of total offense and less than 17 points, less than 20 points, and beat their ass in a playoff game. That's what I want to do. That's probably not going to happen this year, but I can dream, right? Let me dream. Anyway, I digress. That's the last time we'll talk about Benjamin Johnson. I'm done with him. I'm worried about what's here. The guy that wanted to be here. Okay, that's another thing. I don't want a guy that don't want me, right? He didn't want us. I'm cool with that. I want to be where I'm wanted, right? Dan Quinn wanted us because he could see the path to success. And he wanted to be the guy. Not everybody wants to be in this seat. This is not the best job smoking right now. But if you can get this team back to respectability, back to the mountaintop, do you know how revered you will be? Do you understand how you would be viewed if you're able to get the Washington organization back to its glory years, if you're able to restore that. Again, not everybody's capable of taking on that burden. It's a heavy one. And had this been Dan Snyder's organization still, I could totally understand. But the fact that we had all those draft picks, all that cap space, you had a GM that was well respected around the league, and you had a chance to, if you're this offensive guru, if you're this guy with, all of this ability offensively, and you got a chance to handpick your quarterback, you got some pieces on offense, and you can start to really construct the offense the way you want to, and all of this cap space, all of these picks, 6 picks in the top 100, you get to pick your quarterback, and this isn't a job that interests you? You don't think you're good enough? Then I don't think you're good enough. You stay in the sun a little bit longer in Detroit. We'll see how it goes for you. But I know this much. It's on site with Ben Johnson. It's on site. Anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T. Thank you for joining me here on this very impromptu. I'm sorry. I probably didn't need to do this. I really didn't. But blame my wife for this. I already told you. I need closure. Well, now we got our closure. We can move on, slam the book, close the chapter, and focus in on trying to, as Dan Quinn would like to say, kick ass. I'm with that. Let's kick some ass. So, enjoy your weekend. You know what this is. Post up. Take command. I'll see you guys next time. Yeah, I was dressed in all black for a reason. You already know what it is. I don't have to tell you. Enjoy your weekend.